Good evening, everyone. We just want to let you know that we have a line of people still entering the sanctuary. We're going to start in about 10 minutes, and we thank you for your patience. Thank you. thank God for the rhythm of the drums that remind us of the rhythm of life with its beginnings and endings. Grace and peace and welcome, beloveds, to the Riverside Church here in the city of New York. I am Adrienne Thorne, Riverside's 8th senior minister, and it is our honor and our delight to host this celebration of the extraordinary life of Harry Belafonte, even as we have been holding his family and loved ones in our prayers over these many months since his passing. Mr. B, as he was affectionately known by the staff here at Riverside, who welcomed him over the years, was an icon of stage, screen, and street, using his sizable platform and power to push for the civil rights of Black folks. And we thank God for his clarity of vision, his courage, his creativity, and his commitment. We trust that the good he has done in this life will continue to heal the current generation and the generations yet to come. With the past, present, and future in mind, please join me and Mr. Belafonte's family in acknowledging the original stewards of this land that we call Harlem. The Wequasgeek people raised corn and tobacco here and called their land Quinahung, or Planting Neck. The Wequasgeek were a subset of the Wapani. Therefore, we recognize this united territory and the sacred ground upon which we sit and stand. Today's Broadway follows one of the original trails of the Wequasgeek people, so it is even more fitting that in their honor and in honor of Mr. Belafonte, that we now call the ancestors in to guide us in this time of celebration. Ashe. And amen.
Brothers and sisters, and at Harry's homegoing, that's a big word. That includes all of us. We, despite our variations in pigmentation, hairstyle, where we came from and where we are going, for Harry to say brothers and sisters meant all of us. Therefore, I want to join Pastor Thorne in welcoming you here tonight, not as brothers and sisters alone, but one family. Say one family. I am honored to have the opportunity to say a word for my dear, beloved brother. Harry Belafonte was not a saint, but God took his life and also his song and said, I'm going to take Harry's song and make it to be a revelation of my song. I'll tell you why in just a moment. But tonight, as we gather, we do not gather in mourning. It's indelicate to do so for Harry, because when you thought he was down, turn around and here he goes again. And so we do not think of him as gone as much as going on. Where? In Harry's case, you can't tell where he's going. That is to say, one thing you can be sure of, he is going for love, he is going for justice, he is going for community. Now let me tell you, if he were alive, I would consult with members of the family to see if I could get Harry to consider a song that I wrote 20 years ago when I was the senior ministry emeritus here at the Riverside Church. I think he would have sung this song. I made heaven so happy today. He put a little receiving God's love and giving it away. When I looked up, heaven smiled at me. Now I'm so happy, can't you see? Sharing makes us happy, makes heaven happy too. Sharing lifts your spirit and brings the best from you. Sharing sends a ray of hope to places needing care. Sharing says we're neighbors, God's children everywhere. I'm happy, look at me, I'm happy, can't you see? Sharing makes me happy, makes heaven happy too. I'm happy, look at me, I'm happy, can't you see? Let me share my happy, loving smile with you. Harry might would have sung that song. But now let me tell you why God took. Is this Harlem? Riverside Church? Mm-hmm. Well, it all began here, so why don't we just continue his journey here? When Harry was born, he was born into poverty. He was born into periodic conflict in family, amongst friends, in the culture, in the clan in the Southlands. But he always managed, no matter when he dipped low. Watch out, here come Harry again. And I say to you tonight, the reason God says Harry's song reveals my song. God is love. Harry sang about love. God was for freedom and justice. Harry was fiercely about that work all his life. God was about power. Power to bring about change. Harry was determined to do it. And another thing about him, God believed in building community and is at work even now, recruiting you and me to help replace Harry. Who in this house can replace Harry with the commitment to justice, concern for workers, concern for those who had down on their luck but lifted by God's grace? Who in here tonight, memorializing his life, will replace him? And who will replace his song of love? Love, agape love of God. And by the way, who here tonight will replace Harry's generosity? He helped Dr. King in the darkest hours. He went down to Selma and offered hope to despised and dispirited people. Who here tonight will step up to the plate and say, I'll be a replacement. I'll be on the dream team for justice, for generosity, and for peace. And now I want to ask one last question and then I'm through. Who is it that has a song to add to Harry's song? I ask you in honor of Harry Belafonte. Those who can, please stand and repeat these words after me. Stand. The first sermon I preached here had these words. Repeat these words. There's a song inside of me. I can hardly wait to see what it is I have to say, or the music I will play. It's been so long in coming. First a thought and then some humming. But before I find my key, something stifles it in me. What keeps my song from being sung? Past hurts, deep fears, a timid tongue. What makes my freedom come so hard? A self-made live-in prison guard. Meanwhile, the song still groans in me. I can't be me until my song is set free. Debating and hesitating, my song could die. The Spirit said to me, release your song. Said the Spirit to me, be free. Be free. It's Jubilee. Cast out each fearsome song patrol. Proclaim deliverance to your soul. You may be seated while I complete it. Thank God my song has been set free and the rhythm and the words are right for me. I'm finally ready to sing out song, and Harry says, this is my song. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Hello. What about that song the Reverend was just talking about? Come on, y'all. We are Sweet Honey in the Rock. And I have to say, over these past 50 years that we have been singing and spreading our mission and our music, Mr. B was always in our corner. He came to see about us. He let us come see about him at the festivals and traveled with Sweet Honey in the Rock. We are so honored, humbled, and blessed to be here with all of you today to uplift, to bring the ancestors into the room. We offer this song. It is called Breath by Barago Joe, set to music by Dr. Izai Maria Barnwell. It is the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
To be, listen more often to things and to be, tis the ancestor breath when the fire roars Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things and to beings. Listen more often to things and to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the water. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wayward child. They are with us in the home. They are with us in this ground. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things and to beings. Listen more often to things and to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the water. Listen more often to things than to things. Listen more often to things. 'Tis the ancestors' when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' in the voice of the water. In the heart of the water.
Thomas William Maillard. Yvonne Sutherland.
Martin Luther King Jr. Francis Robbins.
Aretha Franklin. Harry Belafonte.
Mr. B.
Mr. B.
Mr.
I was born in Harlem, and at the time of my birth, my father abandoned my mother, who worked as a domestic. She sent my brother and myself to live with relatives in Jamaica. I would go on occasion with my family taking their goods to market, and I remembered how grueling the work was. Almost all the songs that I later came to sing were songs that I'd heard among the peasants and among the peoples of my family at that time.
Did I lie down me wrong, go home?
Since I was a child, thanks to my mother, I've been involved in the movement. And she willed me into a life of care and taking notice. And I was the most rewarded person on the face of the earth to have had all those lives walk through my space. Some of the most courageous social activists and thinkers of our time. They were my mentors, my inspiration. Through them, I understood America's greatness. My mother made me understand that I should never ever awaken in a day where there wasn't something in our agenda that would help set the course for the undermining of injustice.
Swing that hammer, swing that hammer, swing it higher above your head, making little ones out of big ones. Hammer kill you, almost did. If I ever leave this chair again, I'm a-coming once more. Mama, do not scorn me, do not turn me from your door. Swing it high, boy, swing it low, boy. Swing that hammer above your head. Swing it high, boys. Swing it low, boy. Hammer kill you, almost did. When I left old dusty Georgie, all I had was one thin dime. Well, I'm back in dear old Georgie, and I got to serve this time. Swing it high, boys. Swing it low, boys. Swing that hammer till you did. Swing it high, boys. Swing it low, boys. Swing that hammer till you did. Mama, 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 ain't you ashamed of your dear son? Ain't you sorry that you bore me? When you see what I done. Swing it high, boys. Swing it low, boys. Look here, ma, what I done. Swing it high, boys. Swing it low,
As events unfolded and things escalated in the civil rights movement, I was charged with the responsibility of bringing young people to the South to instruct and to guide black people in the process of voting.
What is developing in the state of Mississippi is somewhat of a police state, outright violent, facet, totalitarian conditions exist in this state. And we are very much concerned about the whereabouts the 3 workers in the summer project.
I influenced those 3 kids because I was part of what recruited them to come south. Has forever been on my mind.
3 days after they discovered the bodies of Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman, Harry was asked to take money into Mississippi.
When I first got called about coming down and bringing money, I called Sidney and I said to him, listen, what you doing this weekend? And he says, nothing, man, I'm free. And I said, well, I got something I got to do, and I'd like you to go with me. And I said, I got to go to Greenwood, Mississippi. And he says, listen, it's okay, I'm going with you. But after we do this, I want to tell you something. Never, ever call me again.
He said to me that he was going to speak with Robert Kennedy to let him know that we would be coming down. I mean, we're 2 fairly well-known people, and we might be targets.
Trust me, man, it's gonna be all right. I talked to Burke Marshall, talked to the Justice Department, to have marshals, so we get out. We left from Newark. And from Newark, we went into Jackson. And we got on this little plane. And when we landed in Greenwood, it was empty. And all we saw was one black man in the whole airport pushing a broom, cleaning up the place. And I'll never forget, Sidney looked at him, he looked around a little longer, and he said, that don't look like no FBI.
That ain't no FBI.
That ain't one of us in disguise. We was all these marshals. When we got in to the cars and started up, all of a sudden these headlights went on, and I turned to Sidney and said, there's your protection. Willie Blue said, Marshall's my ass. He said, that's the Klan.
We knew they were gonna try something, and we figured that they wasn't gonna do it inside the airport where too many people would see.
The front car was a pickup truck. And I'll never forget, the pickup truck had a big 2x4 block of wood strapped to the bumper. And as they came up behind the second car, they kept ramming it.
And that was my position on it, was he gonna have to kill me before they get around me. Ain't nobody coming up beside me. That's not in the equation. I had made up my mind on that one.
And what happened is a bunch of cars came out of Greenwood with SNCC volunteers and other people in, and they came barreling down the highway and they met up with us. And then they all got into like the cavalcade and drove into Greenwood.
To me, that was our greatest moment. To me, I knew we had arrived. There wasn't nobody finna harm you guys. It would have been a war.
When we got to Greenwood and gave the money and everything else, they decided to put us up in this little house. And outside, one of the people was sitting there with a shotgun.
Harry, he stayed in this house with the family in the Delta. It was so dangerous. The house had been fired on. But he wanted to identify, not just with us, but with the local people. But he also wanted to bring us a sense of hope that we're with you. And I will never, ever forget that.
I met Harry Belafonte in 1961. I was coordinator of the Freedom Ride from Nashville, Tennessee. Pauline Knight was one of the Freedom Riders, and before she got on the bus, she told me, be sure to contact Harry Belafonte. He might be able to help. And she had read that he was into civil rights, so I called him, and he said he would help. Among many things, he raised a lot of money for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, otherwise known as SNCC. Harry was very interested in the work of the organization, as well as our involvement with many communities where we had projects. So several times he invited several of us from SNCC to come to where he was performing. His performances were usually in the evening, so for 2 or 3 days at a time during the day, we would have meetings where we would discuss what was going on in the South. Well, those meetings were very difficult for me. I'd be sitting in the meeting, and I'd start thinking, I'm sitting 5 feet away from Harry Belafonte as he is so good looking. And I'd be thinking that for a while, and then I'd realize I had missed what was going on in the meeting. So one of those times, Harry excused himself. He left the meeting and he said he'd be back in a few minutes. Well, it was 2 or 3 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. And I was sitting closest to the door, so I opened it and looked right into the face of Sidney Poitier. He asked for Harry, and I said he left, but he said he'd be back in a few minutes. And Sidney said, okay, thank you, and sauntered on down the hallway. Well, I closed the door and was grateful that my weak knees had not completely collapsed and that I was not sitting on the floor. I'll tell you, that close proximity to Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier, all inside of 5 minutes, 63 years ago, was too much strain on a young girl's nervous system. Harry Belafonte had integrity. He took principled positions. He had the courage to speak his truth. The world is a better place because he was in it. Harry, we will continue to miss you.
Hi, I am Dr. Clarence B. Jones. Hi, beautiful. If you were fortunate enough to be alive when I first met Harry in 1960, until March 1st, 2003, the date of his transition, and looked up at the sky at midnight, you would have seen millions of stars and noticed a shooting star so bright, its incandescence so powerful in its brightness, that it outshone all other stars in the midnight sky. That star, my friends, was Harry Belafonte. Never, never, ever will you see just a star so bright ever again. Before Paul Robeson died on January 23, 1976, Harry visited him in Philadelphia. Among other things, Harry said, "Paul, I must know, was all that you have gone through really worth it?" Robeson replied, "Although we may not have achieved all the victories we set for ourselves, may not have achieved all the goals we set for ourselves, beyond the victory itself, infinitely more important was the journey." Harry Belafonte's life is an exemplar of a journey we must continue. Thank you.
Okay. That's good. Everybody wants to see me down the middle. I take directions good. Tell me when I should stop. All the way, keep it going. You real boss. Good, brother? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is George Gresham. Don't be embarrassed that you don't recognize it, because almost no one does. But my love of my life is I'm the president of 1199, SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East. First of all, to Pam and the Belafonte family, I just wish you greetings. And I know you've heard it a million times, but thank you so much for sharing him with the rest of the world. Because I don't know anybody that I've gotten to know that inspired me more than Mr. B. When I got to really get to know him, and he started telling me the stories, and I was visiting him, and I said, "Mr. B, every forum of justice I've ever heard about or participated in, you were there. You were behind it. You sponsored it." I think that he was an amazing person. I thank you to the family for just giving me the pleasure and honor of speaking of this wonderful man. As we began to talk, I found out that we both went to PS 186 in Harlem. We were talking about places to start up a cultural museum. And I mentioned PS 186, and he said, "Oh, you went there, so did I." And then he said, "Of course, at different times." I love this man. I was so glad to hear that we are having this kind of service, because he deserved it. He earned it. And so, y'all didn't come here to hear me. I didn't even come here to hear me. But I think we have one big thing in common, and that is our love for Mr. B.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aja Monet, and I'm a poet, and honored to be here with you all this evening. For those of us who had the privilege to know, to love, to be known and loved by Mr. B, look at us. We are each connected by the cosmic awe of his devotion to us. What a presence he carried. What a calling and responsibility for us to shepherd. Praise the breath that named you so. And here you were like a flash or fluttering wing, a wind beneath and beside us, all that conspired in the universe to wander you into existence, all that flows through you, flows through us. There is a Harry in every heart seeking art and beauty and justice, and we carry your dimples carefully across our face like buckets of water across earth-colored roads in a calypso song. You are our Deo, a voice that startles our own mouths, our island breeze and the surviving sun adored and cherished, a charm on all our wrists raised in the reckoning of our pains and pleasures, a lifetime of performing in the theater of our chests, echoing drum, riffing on our loves, an ancestral standing ovation. Every show is a ceremonious gathering of what is just and what is possible. There's never a dry eye in the house or an empty seat, because there you are, tender magnitude of meaning, a spirit that resonates and glows in a glance. Thank you for living, for loving, for being a temple, a library of sacred pages and poems, brother of Robeson and King and Dandridge, and a movement made us honest, truth-telling, handsome. Praise the day you were born and the mother who made you possible, all that you have endured to be. Destined, bless your calling, your listening, your now. A dream in this nightmare, fellow gatekeeper of truth. A life-sized devotion in a sentimental mood, the artist's reclamation in the hurt of healing, a folk song crowning us on the veranda of your visions, the poems, the song, the choreography of care, the theater of values, we who emerge, how to be artists, how to craft a purpose at a time when it would seem humanity has failed or is failing. I am reminded of the great radical tradition by which Mr. B has thrusted us toward what it means to be literate in the language of the heart, the artist's assignment, the love that lives for Mr. Belafonte is a love that lives for us as Black people in this terrifying experiment called America. The love that lives for him is the pulsing presence that overcomes and comforts us in the deep joy and sadness. He was love manifest and unmeasurable. He was our moral compass, a library, a visionary. He pushed and encouraged our possibility. He was the horizon of our courage, the beauty and brilliance of many years of sacrifice and perseverance. He was consistent, tried, testament to our greatest living. He was a strategist, a storyteller, an embodiment of values and voices lifted up from the depths and valleys of this country. We lost a magnificent miracle of spirit. We lost more than a man, though he was merely mortal. We lost a true shrine of our most magnificent dreams, a tremendous treasure of our radical revolutionary tradition, the original dream defender. In the truest sense of the declaration, the doing and do's of our does, a song outstretched from the sway of our swag, a forehead kiss from our conjuring, a force to be reckoned with, and a voice who held each of us accountable to that great inspiration called poetry. He was our prayer, our blessing. Harry Belafonte lived a long and obedient life. He rose to his purpose and answered every call from the shadows of this globe. He was solidarity in its fullest expression. Though he lived to old age, it is no less painful or significant, the meaning and the depth of this loss. For as we strategize our way forward, we no longer have the undeniable presence to hug and to hold. I will miss his smile, I will miss the dance in his eyes. I will miss the fingers in his calm tone. There is nothing that could have prepared any of us for the world we were born into, but there are few, very, very, very few, who pave such a rigorous path for which we can follow, and our thirst for justice be quenched. Praise, 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 praise his life, praise his flaws, praise his faithful pursuit of our possibility. Thank you, Mr. B. Thank you. What a life, what a life, what a life, what a life. Living, what a life.
I got awarded by the NAACP, and I said, thank you for the anointing from this organization that's about Black life, and here are my thoughts on the subject. Where are you, all of you? The river of blood that washes the streets of our nation flows mostly from the bodies of our Black children. Where is the raised voice of Black America? Why are we mute? Paul Robes said, artists are the gatekeepers of truth. We are civilization's radical voice. Never in the history of Black America has there ever been such a harvest of truly gifted and powerful artists as we witness today. Yet, our nation hungers for their radical song. Let us not sit back silently. Let us not be charged with patriotic treason. And I will tell you that our kids, those who languish in the prisons of America, are waiting for us to change the system. Thank you.
First and foremost, my loving condolences to the Belafonte family. My name is Carmen Perez Jordan. I am the president and CEO of the Gathering for Justice. Distinguished guests, cherished community, it is with a deep sense of honor and profound emotional weight that I stand before you to pay homage to an incredible man. Harry Belafonte was a pivotal figure in my life, as well as countless others, many of whom are here with us tonight. Our paths crossed in my early 20s, many, many, many moons ago, within the walls of Northern California, in the prisons called Tracy, with my mentor, Nane Alejandres of Barrios Unidos. Initially, I didn't know all that Mr. Belafonte was or his contributions to the civil rights movement. Don't blame me, that was like 20-something years ago. My only reference at the time was that he was behind the captivating voice in the Deo dinner scene from Beetlejuice. Yet, as fate would have it, I would go on to work for him, which at the Gathering for Justice, which I am now honored to lead. Through my journey alongside Mr. B, I came to understand the true extent of his dedication and sacrifice. It was a gradual revelation shared through many conversations and various projects, uncovering the layers of his vast contributions to the fight for equity and liberation. I learned not only about his contributions, but how things came to be. He gave me and everyone I brought into the office the behind the scenes of most social justice movements, the strategies, the tactics they used, leaving behind a blueprint for us to pick up, adding our own flavor to it. He taught me about the transformative power of our voices and how they can serve dual purposes, both as beautiful melodies and as clarion calls for justice. He showed me that the stage is not merely a venue for performance, but a platform for advocacy, where every lyric can reflect the deepest truths of our society. He often said, "Meet people where they're at and champion them to our cause." He also said, "There's a role for everyone in this movement." Yet, it was his belief that each generation is responsible for their own liberation that compelled me to start Justice League NYC with my peers who are here with me tonight. Mr. B and my relationship was a special one that went beyond the conventional mentor-boss relationship. He was a source of endless wisdom, inspiration, and a walking history book. He also had lots of jokes. I know many of you heard them. There's so many stories of our time together that I would love to tell you. I may be able to share the story of us sipping the 70-year-old rum in his office or dancing to hip-hop, but I'll save that for another occasion. The story I want to share is one that reminds me of who he was. He was a unifier. He brought people together. He gathered us for justice. There was a time when my generation was at odds with the older generation, and I remember going back to my office and hearing about this person and that person gatekeeping, and it hurt my heart. I was lost, and I went to Mr. B and I said, "Hey, Mr. B, what's going on? Like, what's up?" And he said, "You know, Carmen, there has always been friction, but you have to learn how to work with one another. You have to learn how to build radical solidarity." And he said something so profound that I always share with my colleagues. He said, "Those who are working towards the liberation of our people are subject to friendship and support. Those who are being divisive are playing the enemy's game." Boy, did that change my life. Today, as we honor Mr. B, let us remember that there's a lane for each one of us. Let us commit to carrying on his legacy and using our voices and actions to continue the fight for justice, because it's not over. In celebrating him, we commemorate a mentor, a visionary, a man whose life was a testament to the power of uniting people of all backgrounds. His legacy challenges us to envision a fight for a world where justice will prevail. To Mr. B, with all my respect, admiration, and love, sir, thank you. There is no one on this earth like you. There is no one who did what you did to the very last day. Your impact is boundless, your legacy everlasting, and your teachings will continue to light the way for many of us. Your spirit lives on in all our work, the lives we touch, and the change we seek in the world. Thank you.
Good evening. We who believe that the future is not bound to replicate oppressive patterns of the past will be forever grateful to Harry Belafonte for his radical vision, his unfaltering commitment, and his eagerness to go wherever he heard the call. I had revered Harry for a very long time before the news reached me in my jail cell that he was a strong supporter of the campaign to free me. I think I saw him then as a star who had decided from that position to embrace social justice causes. But when I met him in 1973 at Paul Robeson's 75th birthday celebration, and he told me that Ben Davis, communist councilman from Harlem, was his mentor, I realized that he was letting me know that the prospect for radical social change was that which gave deep meaning to his life and work on this planet. Had we not had that exchange, I might have been rather surprised when I learned that he and Danny Glover were regularly visiting the brothers in Soledad prison with Nane Alejandres, the formerly incarcerated founder of Barrios Unidos. Mr. B's spirit continues to animate our calls for abolition of carceral structures everywhere. When I was a member of the panel at the Russell Tribunal on Palestine, I was elated, but not really surprised when he and his wife, Pamela, joined us for the last session in New York. Harry's spirit will be animating those who march tomorrow for a permanent ceasefire and an end to the Israeli occupation of Palestine. When Harry told me about his work with Dream Defenders in Florida, I knew I had to connect with this socialist, abolitionist, feminist organization of young people. Mr. B's spirit continues to animate Dream Defenders and all those who lead us on the Freedom Trail. Harry summarized his own life by saying, "The pursuit of justice is all I have ever known." May all of us follow him in that journey.
Greetings. My name is Dr. Divine Pryor, Reverend Dr. Divine Pryor. I love Harry Belafonte. I adored him. I admired him. I respected him. I revered him. All of those things. Every now and again, a force of nature passes through mankind. Every now and then, an energy comes amongst humanity that's able to touch every last one of us. That energy I speak of now is Harry Belafonte. Not only was he an iconic figure, he was almost larger than life. He was a man who set the bar very high. He made no apologies if excellence was the only acceptable thing that he would allow to be manifest. He did not ask permission to tell you what was his truth. That was Harry Belafonte. He was a living example. He was a man who stood for what was right. He was a man who did not dare challenge injustice. He actually walked the walk and talked the talk. They tell me I only have a minute, so in my minute I just want to tell you that you saw that 2013 when he received that Spingard Award at the NAACP Image Award, and he challenged the black church. There were some folks whose feathers got a little ruffled. I know. And so one of the bishops in Brooklyn said, "Don't you know Harry?" I said, "Well, I know Mr. B." "Well, can you get him to come here?" I said, "He ain't scared of y'all." And we organized the bishops and the archbishops and overseers, and they were there in numbers. And they came out, and they were waiting, and he was respectfully late, but he did get there. And when he walked in, sucked the air right out the room, because they knew right then that it was on. The confrontation was about to happen. And I'm telling you, he addressed them. He is so superb. He is so eloquent. His use of the English vernacular defies the imagination. He can take words and draw images and pictures. And I got that from him. I got a few beatings, too. Mr. B had no problem setting you straight. And I have it documented, that event. I was telling Gina, thank you for allowing me to speak a moment, that I actually have that footage and I want to show it. And Gina said, well, we'll work it out. We're gonna show that footage. I want y'all to hear this. Oh, you talking about dressing somebody up. And in fact, he was so good, he almost had us, we was ready to pass the plate when he got finished. But I want to say, in all seriousness, in my last 10 seconds, Mr. B was a man of integrity. He was timeless. How do you stay relevant for 9 decades? Every issue, no matter how they change and transform, he emerged and responded. He was able to address audiences of all ages, of all classes. He was an extraordinary being. My name is Dr. Divine Pryor, but I ain't no joke. Peace and blessings.
We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around.
We come from the fire, go back to the fire, turn the world around.
We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Whoa, ho, so is life. Ah, so is life. Whoa, ho, so is life. Ah, so is life. Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Do you know who I am? Do I know who I am? See we one another clearly. Do we know who you are? Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Whoa, so is life, Abadiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life, Abadiwa. So is life. Water make the river wash the mountain. Fire make the sunlight turn the world around. Heart is of the river, body is the mountain. Spirit is the sunlight, turn the world around. We are of the spirit, truly of the spirit. Only can the spirit turn the world around. We are of the spirit, truly of the spirit. Only can the spirit turn the world around. Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are?
Do you know who I am?
Who I am?
See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are?
Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are?
See we one another clearly.
Do we know who we are? Oh, so is life about you are. So is life. Whoa, so is life about you are. So is life. Whoa, so is life about you are. So is life. Whoa, so is life about you. So is life. Whoa, so is life about you. So is life. Whoa, so is life about you. So is life.
Well, it's been such a great show that we can hardly bring ourselves to end it. And we all know who we have to thank for that.
The scriptwriter.
No, the guest star, Fuzzy. And so thank you from all of us, Mr. Harry Belafonte.
Yes, the greatest group of singers I've ever worked with. To the Muppets. Night all.
Thank you. We'll see you next time on The Muppet Show.
This is hard because I feel like I don't want to let Harry down. This is also an extraordinary tribute to obviously a very special person. And it's probably everything he didn't want. But I don't really believe that, and I know you don't either. But it's everything that we did, and it's everything that he deserved, I think. So I'm honored to have been invited to be here tonight. I know if I'd asked Harry to put it into context, he'd probably have said that it's because they needed a white person. But I also know he would have looked out and seen the family here, and probably nothing would have made him more proud, and how important that was to him to see the family together. And now, for this reason, it would have justified us being this tribute. He would have gotten past it. And I know how appreciative he was of all of you. I know how special Pam was in caring for him and probably keeping him alive and keeping him with us for so much longer than we would have otherwise. When I was speaking to Gina before this event, I think she had told me I had 2 minutes, actually, by the way. And we laughed because we knew to Harry that would have meant 20. Passionate, articulate, and unscripted, but still 20 minutes. Maria and I had a very special relationship with Harry and with the family. But so probably did half the people in this room. We adored him. And I've struggled with finding the words that can explain the relationship as well as the void that he has left us. As everyone knows, Harry never shied away from a struggle. Marched with Dr. King for civil rights, with Nelson Mandela against apartheid in South Africa, with Cesar Chavez for the rights of farm workers, and Hugo Chavez in Venezuela against poverty and inequality. And not all of these issues and many others that he championed were popular at the time. But in the spirit of his friend John Lewis, Harry could not resist good trouble. He was even brave enough to take on a truly formidable one, the battle of the sexes. First serving as co-chairman for the Women's March in Washington in 2017. In his words, man smart, woman smarter. Politically suggesting that no matter how smart men think they are, women are always a step ahead. Probably an ode to his, he would have agreed with you, probably an ode to his wonderful wife Pam and his dynamic daughters Sherry, Adrienne, and Gina. Sorry, David, but you're in good company. Upon my request, and because of his concern for the millions afflicted with AIDS, with HIV, he agreed to join the board of AMFAR, which I chaired, wanting to fight for drug and treatment access to the underserved populations in the third world. Harry was looking for a crusade, even though I kept reminding him that we were an AIDS research organization. It didn't stop him. He still was looking for a crusade, and I'd continue to remind him. Harry was so damn talented, he won the highly coveted and rarely achieved EGOT, Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. He received the Kennedy Center's honors, the National Medal of Arts, and numerous honorary degrees from prestigious institutions. But I reminded him often that he never truly realized his meaningful acclaim until 18 years ago when he made a guest appearance in a Kenneth Cole runway show in New York Fashion Week. He stole the show, obviously, but because he was so damn refined and so extraordinarily, annoyingly elegant, always. Reflecting back, when I used to experience various monumental moments, birthdays, awards, as well as losses, I lost my mother. He was always the first to call. So annoyingly thoughtful. Despite the unidentified caller part, which I'd get past, often leaving melodic and hoarse voicemails, he would ask, "How are you?" and insist that I actually answer the question. He was a better friend than I knew how to be. I was struggling one day, and the solution started with, "Why don't you come over and let's smoke a joint?" His wisdom was often something like, "When life gives you lemons, make a margarita." Harry had the unique ability to find the light as well as the purpose, meaning, and even humor in most anything. I still love laughing with him and sometimes just laughing at his laugh. He admittedly didn't take the world seriously, except when he did. And when he did, he really did. At every stage of his life, on behalf of the underserved and unempowered, he did what he could in a way that only he could. That said, he was disgusted by the treatment of young black men in the criminal justice system, as you heard from Carmen, of how often black individuals encounter loved ones for the first time while incarcerated. The cycle of incarceration, he would say, is real. He was appalled by the subjugation of women and the tolerating and even promoting of violence in the community. He was concerned that the monumental progress that so many had worked so hard for could be lost by and for the benefit of future generations. He believed the young needed to be more engaged and more enraged. The lesson of his mentor, Paul Robeson, to get them to sing your song, remained his driving force and call to action in his fight for social and criminal justice reform until the end. I believe Harry's activism was a choice as well as a calling. He used every platform he had to shine a light on injustice wherever it was, to sing the songs of those who were silenced with the same melody that consistently disrupted the status quo, with an unyielding demand for better for and from us all. Harry leaves behind a chorus of voices, still singing, still fighting, several we have heard from tonight, all of whom are now bearers of his song. In closing, in the words of our dear and inspiring friend and my mentor, daylight come and we want to go home. Harry, you have found your way home, hopefully a place of peace and eternal rest, and God knows you deserve it. I expect one day to laugh with you again about all the shit going on that we are left having to make sense of without you, almost every night and day-o. We love you, Harry.
I made a promise to my wife I would be short, even though we were married here. Harry knew my father, the late, great jazz bassist Bill Lee, and they were the same folk circuit. Odetta, Peter, Paul, and Mary, I mean, everybody. And so I would meet them. We would have a run bumping each other. And he would say to me, every time you have a part in your film for an older man, you give it to Ozzie Davis. And every time he would see me, that's the first thing he would say. You have to give every role to Ozzie, Coach Odom in School Days, and the mayor, and Doing the Right Thing, and Jungle Fever, every Ozzie, then, you know, you got Ruby too, so what you want me to do? So finally, timing is everything. And I had a role for him. And this scene was about, he talking about in his younger life, he was witness to a lynching. So he said, I'll do it. But then it got a little shaky. So we didn't know for sure if he was gonna come. So we had somebody's staffs, I don't know if you knew this. We had somebody's staffs just in case. I'm not gonna name them. And I told the crew, wear your Sunday best. They did not know who it was, but I knew that it had to be somebody major if they had to get dressed to the nines. Then my AD said, he's here. And I went to the car and led him into the set. And people lost their mind. I cursed, but I'm not cursing here. And the performance he delivered was amazing. And a couple of days after that, I collect stuff, so I had a poster from Carmen Jones. And the inscription was, now I could go to heaven. I've been to Spike Lee joint. I'm gonna close, it has to be sports. He's the GOAT.
Wow, Spike was short. I was there expecting a long one. Hello, everybody. My name is Chuck D. I'll be quick, too. I'd like to thank the Belafonte family. I'd like to thank everybody for even giving me a chance to say a few words. At first was kind of messed up for a bunch of years, because the first time I met somebody who was like a relative of my family that everybody looked up to, everybody in the family. I met Mr. Belafonte when he was 80 years old. And his son David did a speech and messed me up. He said, my father's not 80. He's 4 energetic 20-year-olds in one person. And I was like, well, 20? Well, how am I gonna match that? And for about like 25 years, I only got 4 hours sleep a night. He left the world a better place. Understatement, right? If you pay attention to the world. Culture is that thing that unites human beings for our similarities and knocks aside the differences, and is definitely a king at that, and taught us. As a matter of fact,
it makes culture different from government. You know, culture unites human beings, and governments like to split humans up, categorize us, put us in these little boxes. And sitting and having conversations with Mr. B, you know, he gave you the feeling that you was talking to Paul Robeson and all his heroes too. He just transferred that energy like pop locking. Speaking of pop locking, his contribution to hip hop is an understatement. I mean, not only did he overstand it, but also coming from New York, he didn't reject it, he accepted it, he embraced it with the Beat Street movie and the auditions and getting with the people and the young people. And when people was throwing whatever at the music, he was right there as the king that opened the doors. My good brothers Kool Moe Dee and Dougie Fresh are examples that coming from the seed of Harry Belafonte. And the talk about, I mean, you know, everybody in here understands that keeping it real is old slang by now, so you get it. He's as real as they ever had, Mr. B. Also, he didn't want the rapper, MC, or spitter to just be a hollow barker. He is the Black Print. And coming from Long Island, we knew that what Mr. B was doing for hip hop was great. I was a DJ, so everything that came through us, especially from the movie and whatever, and it fell in line with everything that we already had in the crates from Mr. B. He was a total package, the first total package, if you want to say Paul Robeson was the total package, as far as a male concerned, Mr. B is a total package. So you want to hear and talk about anybody in entertainment, movies, records, films, all this and that, nobody was more outstanding than he as an artist and a curator and a culturalist. And he finds the time to bring the noise when it comes down to making human beings and governments accountable to human beings. He's the Black Print. He put the movement to hip hop rap music as well. Years later, Public Enemy was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And of course, all the rockers were like, well, they're not rock, they're not rock. And I would just say, well, we the roll, baby. And HBO, home box office TV, said they were adamant about having a TV show. So it's not about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's about the TV show. And they were always trying to do this thing like, whenever you have somebody inducted, they would have some younger artist induct them. So they would like say, well, Public Enemy, who's gonna induct you? And they had a whole list of names. And after we had our list of names, I said, we want Mr. Belafonte to induct us. And they were hemming and hawing, and we don't do it that way. And some of them were like, had the nerve to say, who? I mean, huh? What is he? You know, like what, Mr. Bell? Okay, but the guy that does the songs from Carmen Jones in the 50s? We say, yeah, you don't bring him, you ain't getting us. Stay my tail home. They call my man, my bro, Spizike. It says, Spizike, help us. Spike says, you know what? Chuck and them said they want Mr. B, I want Mr. B too. Then they went to Spike and said, well, can they both do them together? Because like, we need the star power to bring you in. And Spike says, okay. Now, once you bring Spike and Public Enemy up in the house, it's like, oh, here we go. Mr. B inducted us in, but we was like, it ain't about our induction, who are we? How do we honor our heroes in prime time? Also, they wasn't used to seeing black elders on TV anyway. Even to this day, you don't see black elders on TV. It's always about the sell. How do we pay homage to our heroes? From that, I got involved with his daughter, Gina Belafonte, and the Sankofa, organization, and it's been a treat just to be able to be on call. I mean, it's really simple. Chuck, we need you, holler, I'm there. Woven with the love, peace, and passion of all of our families, my family, moms, dads, kids, brothers, sisters, wives, in-laws, an all-connected family are indebted to Mr. B, his family, and everything else. I was like, well, we go from me to we. And that's what he said, let the me turn into we. And I said, and then we could get involved and really galvanize the movement. He said, Chuck, you are the movement. You are the movement. And at that point, I always knew Mr. B meeting a president. I never met President Obama, but I knew that meeting a president would step down from Mr. B. That's all I had to meet, Mr. B. I mean, I'm not, no disrespect, but I met Mr. B. Last story I got to say, just real short. Once I said, all right, I could be the movement, and I'm putting in like 12 hours a day, went to Mr. B's house, graced by Mrs. B and Mr. B, and I was like, you know, ever since David said that speech about you being 4 20-year-olds in an 80-year-old body, you know, I've been moving and running, and then he says, Chuck, yeah, you know, you are the movement. It's all right to wake up at 11 a.m. I was like, what? Because sometimes it was like, Mr. B, nah, Mr. B ain't waking up to 12, and that's when you put in the work and you are the movement, then Chuck, you could wake up at 10 a.m. and make all in every walk of life accountable, but be accountable at the same time. Salute, Mr. B. Thank y'all.
I have to tell you that when my phone would ring and I'd pick it up and I'd hear, what? I knew it meant one of two things. I needed to be somewhere, I needed to bring something, and I had to be prepared. The thing that he did mostly in my mind was that he very competently explained to people why they needed to be caring, why it was important, starting with the fact that if I don't care and you don't care, what is there? And he once said to me, why do you do what you do? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, why do you say the stuff you say? I said, because I think it. And sometimes I just say what's in my mind. And he says, it scare you? I said, yeah. He said, I don't believe you. I said, no, it does. It scares me because I don't want to stop feeling that I have a purpose. That when people disappear and go, it's not going to say to me, okay, well, now I can find a way out. It is hard to stay committed. It is hard to stay committed. You are constantly having to tell people, this is our world. Without us, there is no sense in doing what we do, so we have to get up every day. So I've been in prisons with Harry. I was in Paul Newman's cancer camp singing with Harry. Hole in the bucket. Very little scares me. Very little freaks me out. That was difficult. Because Harry is smiling and I'm thinking, oh shit, okay, here I'm now, okay. Dear Liza, and he finally said, what? I said, huh? He said, come here. You see me? I said, yes. He said, follow what I do. do what I do, and then it'll be fine. I said, okay. So we got through it. He got through it. I've never gotten over it. The other thing that I learned from Harry was about children. Because children don't always understand when a big personality is usurped by the world. They don't always get it. And so I realized that adult children and small children don't always know why there isn't the time they want you to give to them. They don't understand saving the world until they get to be older. It is hard to be the child of a megalite. And I just want to say to each and every one of his children, people keep saying, where are the people who are going to lead us? Well, it's starting with you all. You were taught by the best. You were taught that in spite of people's stupidity, we still have to reach out to them and help them walk. We have to keep doing it to people who you don't want to talk to anymore because there's just nothing left to say. But that's not true, because there's never nothing left to say. So I am thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled at all the things that I learned from Harry. Going to Alcatraz, watching inmates graduate. Important, okay, got it. Never left it, still with me. Taking care of the kids at the cancer camps, not just one, the many that he introduced me to. Why? Because he said, here's how you can help. Here's what you can do. Stop cussing at people. It was the one thing he asked that I could not give him. But I'm going to follow the path. He set it out. It's very clear. We'll all go home and remember and think about all of this. But let those moments grab you, those deep, dark moments that say, man, what are you doing? You got to get out and do it. You got to reach out. You got to do something. And know that you do. That you do. That's why he was here. He gave us the roadmap. It is up to each and every one of us to follow it as best we can. You don't have to be Harry, but you have to understand what Harry was trying to give the world. So, thank you, family. Thanks for letting me hang out as family. Because, I'd be up under him. Hi, Harry. And the last thing I'm going to tell you that I want to talk about is the fact that Harry tore down, not just knocked him down, he tore down boundaries on television. He touched Petula Clark and people's heads exploded. Their heads exploded. He touched her. He put out great comedy, great special called Time for Laughter, with some of the greatest humorists on the planet who happen to be black. People lost their minds for this because they'd never seen a whole bunch of black people in one place at one time before on television, apparently. But he shifted that. So every time you see folks of color on television, you remember Harry put them there. Harry did that. I believed you. Thanks, Harry.
Try to remember the kind of September when life was slow and oh so mellow. Try to remember the kind of September when grass was green and grain was yellow. Try to remember the kind of September when you were young and callow fellow. Try to remember, and if you remember, then follow. Try to remember the life was so tender when no one wept except the willow. Try to remember when life was so tender when dreams were kept beside your pillow. Try to remember when life was so tender, when love was an ember about to be low. Try to remember, and if you remember, then follow. Follow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember, although you know the snow will follow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember without a hurt. The heart is hollow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember the fire of September that made us mellow. Deep in December, our hearts should remember and follow. Now, so it feels unnatural to just sing and not say a few words to send out Grandpa off, so here we go. My name is Amadeus Belafonte. I'm the youngest of Harry's 5 grandchildren. I was 15 when my grandpa passed, and to me, that was a lifetime. My grandpa lived almost 7 times that of my short lifetime, and I, along with Pam, entered in book 7. There was a ginormous life before book 7 that I will truly never know, yet live in my genetics. But what I do know is that my time with him was special, and that my book 7 was filled with him on almost every single page. I might not have experienced sex symbol grandpa, grandpa activist, or red carpet grandpa, but I got to experience grandpa who visited my classes, watched me perform, went to the movies with me, played bingo, and played matches for hours. So I called him Fafa. So did she, which means dad's dad in Danish. Dear Fafa, I love you beyond words, and I have not yet come to terms with the fact that I will never see you again. I think about you each and every day, more times than I can count. You are still such a big part of my life. I carry my heart on my sleeve, or in this case, on my back. On my back. And I'm not afraid to admit that I still sometimes cry rivers 9 months after you left me. I don't know what stage of grief I'm in. I feel like I've visited and revisited the same stages over and over again. Almost like it's waiting for me to finish my chores, my work, my homework, my studying. Right when I think, I'm good. It jumps out like Kato from the Pink Panther movies at the most inconvenient times, which reminds me of the clumper. So maybe it's just you reminding me that you love me and are still here. You meant the world to my family. You were my dad's everything for so many years. I love hearing all the stories from touring, Beach Street, and about the Grammy you both did not win for the Black Anthology of Music. I still smile when thinking about how all 4 of us visited you during COVID in full atom bomb hazmat protection gear, which was my mom's genius idea to get permission to finally come see you. You meant more than you know to my mom. I catch her more often than she knows fighting back tears, a battle which she always loses. I will miss going to the movies and falling asleep holding your hand. Seraphina and I still crack up about the time when you lost your phone and we looked all over Manhattan and it was actually in your shoe, days later. Where you put it. You wanna know why? Because the buzzing was annoying you. The way you drank water, you would swish it after you ate something to get all the food out of your teeth. Your really long feet, your hugs, your voice, your cheering, your pride, and of course your advice. I really miss your mischievous ways. I'll miss your clumper, as will my dad. I'll miss your playing matches and eating chicken wings, and as I've said many times, your deboning technique is legendary. It's insane. Put it in, take it out, gone. All meat's just in there. I love putting my head on your belly. I loved your smell, which I still have in a sweater Pam allowed me to have. I still sometimes curl up in it and just cry in it. I love that you always kissed us on the lips, Seraphina, Mom, and Dad included. I miss those kisses, your hands, your love. I miss you so much, Fafa. Please keep visiting me in my dreams.
One of my favorite photos is of my grandpa and I in Jamaica. He is looking up at me as I am in the middle of a big laugh. He said something incredibly funny that I promised I would never repeat. That photo sums up our moments and memories with him. Pure love, mischievous jokes, and no drama. Fafa meant the world to me. He was always there, the day I was born, my christening in Denmark, first steps in LA, trips to Jamaica, weekly visits to his apartment, and every day when he lived with us for 2 years. And now I feel an immeasurable hole that he is gone. Nothing prepares you for when a stable pillar in your life, a presence felt even when not physically in the room, is no longer there. No more voicemails, all-encompassing hugs, or lessons to the man, the myth, the legend on how to use Snapchat filters, which he found particularly amusing. While this staple is not physically here with us, I see him in my family, see him in my snapshots, hear him when we sing, feel him in my heart. Grandpa was one of the first Black men of his caliber to walk through the doors that he did. With Grandpa's passing, it became evident the importance of protecting this Black legacy. protecting his history from the hands of whitewashing and from being forgotten as the tides roll forward. I am a fierce protector of his legacy. His story will not be forgotten. Rather, it is turned into inspiration we use to move forward and help those Grandpa's voice protected and uplifted. While this staple is not physically here, we see him, and I feel him in my heart and in your nose and curls. Fafa, I miss everything about you, every single day. I miss how your hands felt when interlocking with mine. I miss your wildly infectious laugh, your kisses, your raspy voice that I still have reverberating in my ears. My favorite spot was sitting in your lap, whether just us or surrounded by people, and you would whisper things that only I was meant to hear. Like my brother, I still have not totally accepted that I will never see you again. We love you so much, Fafa. I hope you found your island in the sun.
We'll start at the other end of the line now. I am the oldest grandchild, so. Around age 12, someone asked me what it was like having a famous grandfather. I thought for a moment and replied, I don't know. I've never not had a famous grandfather. He was always recognized if we were walking down the street and would stop and greet people with warm smiles. I'd seen him from the wings of a stage so many times and heard his voice from the speakers or on the radio in a store. I got chances that no other grandchild had, and I've been blessed with that. I also got to see him on the screen and across the dinner table. I grew up knowing the role he played in changing the very fabric of this country. But still, to me, he was always just grand-père. He teased me, hugged me, told me stories, and always made me laugh. I felt his love through and through. I also knew his love for people and making sure that they were all treated with kindness and fairness. These are the things that I take with me through life as I think of him. I didn't follow in his footsteps exactly. I can't sing. But he did gift me with a view of the world that was for the betterment of all people. I'm an activist at heart. It shows through in the way that I taught the children in my classroom, the projects I do in Southern Africa with my mother, and how I see and treat people every day. The way I view the world today is through his lens. I know he wanted the world to be a place where all people felt welcome and heard. That is a world that I will continue to work to create and hope to see fulfilled one day. Harry Belafonte was an artist, an actor, a singer, an activist, and my grandfather. As the first grandchild, I was blessed not just by having him in my life altogether, but also with the amount of time that I got to spend with him. From going on tour with him, to just traveling around, engaging of his love of shopping or going to the movies, quiet visits at home, and him making dinner just the two of us. I'm happy to say that I will never know what it's like to not have a famous grandfather, because I wouldn't change a moment of my life with him.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is the part of the show, I think, where everybody goes, yay! Who is he? Who's that guy? Yeah, so I am Brian Biesmeyer. I am the middle of the first three, of two of the first five. You know, one of the things that he always did growing up, he always taught me that no matter what you put into a conversation, make it your best, which is this, you know, this is something new to me. I'm just making this up, honestly. This is kind of my tribute to him. This is how he kind of did things. And, you know, this family is strong. They are monolithic. They are just unbending rules and needs for change. And I'm funny. So I got that one from my grandfather. So, that's good. But, you know, it's just one of those things that when somebody asks you, like my sister said, what your grandfather means to you, because that happened all the time. People would come up to you and say, you know, what's it like to have a grandfather like that? And I say, you know, that front door is locked. How do you keep getting into this house to ask me that question? But aside from that, you know, we really didn't know the difference. You know, it was, a lot of people said some things today that I could give you probably answers for. You know, it was very different in this family. We all want to help in some way or another. We do it on small scales, big scales. Sometimes we're not around each other, but when we are, we love fiercely. And that was one thing that he did with all of us. All of us. You know, he took that time, and that moment was yours and yours forever. And I think you all felt that way, everybody in this room at some point or another, from him. Because it was just, he was such a polarizing person. You know, all the way down to, he now has great grandkids. There's 3 at home, and I hope they're doing really well right now and being good for Jen, but probably not. They had a lot of sugar. You know, they know his legacy, but they also know this family's legacy. You know, this is a legacy that is not stopping today. You know, we have each other. We're moving on. In some ways, in other ways, we're not, because he really never truly is going to be gone, is he? Because we have everything in our hearts and in our minds to take care of. And as long as we keep pushing on with anything that we see, injustice, indifference, intolerance, I really think that we can either choose to do one or two things: not do anything about it, pass it on to the next generation, or do something about it now. You know, I do it on a small scale. So, you know, trying to make people laugh is my thing, but, you know, I'll try to keep doing what I can. But I'm giving the Time's Up sign. I love you all. Thank you all for being here.
Poppy, I wrote this to you on the morning of April 25th, 2023. The birds seemed louder this morning, like they all had heard what happened. This was a moment I thought about and I feared. I want to thank you for being my support and always pushing me to do what I love. I am forever grateful for your advice, your knowledge, and wisdom that you were able to impart on me over the past 26 years I got to spend with you. Thank you for our trips together, for gifting me my first camera, reminding me about craft, for asking me why, for teaching me about intentionality, teaching me about art, about music, about humor, about the stage, about doing what's right. I will miss our visits, our chess games. Thank you for being proud of me and telling me that my dreams could be a reality. Thank you for raising my mother into the strongest woman I know. Thank you for teaching me to never settle, to open every door that is put in front of me, and if the door is locked, to find a window. It's been hard to imagine a life without you in it. And I carry you through me. Carry on your work and your legacy. I'm so lucky to have had you as my grandfather. I love you forever, Poppy.
It was a pleasure, privilege, and honor to spend even a minute with Mr. B. I was lucky enough to have hours. Today I get to sing in his honor songs that he sang. But this next one is very special. Talking to Gina today, I said, this song that you asked me to sing here today, did Mr. B ever sing it? He said no. She said no. She said she's heard it hundreds of times. This is his favorite song. I get to share it with you. It's called The Island. They say the skies of Lebanon are burning, those mighty cedars bleeding in the heat. They show pictures on the television, women and children dying in the streets. And we're still at it in our own place, still trying to reach the future through the past, still trying to carve tomorrow from a tombstone. But hey, don't listen to me, this wasn't meant to be no sad song. We've had too much of that before. Right now I only wanna be here with you till the morning dew comes falling. I wanna take you to the island and trace your footprints in the sand. And in the evening when the sun goes down, we'll make love to the sound of the ocean. They're raising banners over the markets, whitewashing slogans on shipyard walls, witch doctors praying for a mighty showdown. No way our holy flag is gonna fall. 'Cause up here we sacrifice our children to feed the worn-out dreams of yesterday and teach them dying will lead us into glory. But hey, don't listen to me, 'cause this wasn't meant to be no sad song. I've sung too much of that before. Right now I only wanna be here with you till the morning dew comes falling. I wanna take you to the island and trace your footprints in the sand. And in the evening when there's no one around, we'll make love Now I guess plain folks don't see all the story, and I suppose this peace and love's just copping out. And I know there's young boys dying in the ditches. It's just what being free is all about. And how this twisted wreckage down on Main Street will bring us all together in the end, as we go marching down the road to freedom. Richard Cummings.
Hello. My fan club in the front row. I'm Adrienne Belafonte Biesmeyer. I am the firstborn, the oldest. I have to go up there? Gina, who's put this beautiful evening together, just said I have to go up there. I much preferred that podium because now I have to feel like I have to preach.
Preach.
As I just said, I'm the oldest of the children, and in my record keeping, I am the oldest of 5 known children. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, both whom I love as the sisters go, and I really love the brothers, including the new kid on the block. Now, that will set most of you in the audience going, who is she talking about and where is this going? And that's as far as I'm going to go. You'll have to figure it out on your own. I'm also the mother of the first 2 grandchildren who you just heard speak. But being the firstborn, I had an opportunity that my siblings did not, which was I had my father for 5 years all to myself. My first 5 years. And they do talk about that those are the formidable years, the years that form who you are. And so my dad worked at night. My mother was a school teacher who worked in the day. One of her complaints, she told me after my growing up, was that Dad would always put me in the lightest color dress, yellow, white, and then take me up on the roof of our Harlem apartment building to play soccer. And I was also told that the song Scarlet Ribbons, because my hairstyle was a little different than it is now, you know, the hot comb and all that, and I had little braids with little red ribbons on it. And so I've always cherished that. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, I don't care, because it's mine, and how I feel and remember about the early days with my father. As the oldest, I also had the opportunity to do things with him, even though the younger ones were brought on trips that I was on by being the oldest, with my father's sister Shirley, who also just passed a few weeks ago. The last clip, when Amadeus and Serafina were singing, was Dad walking across a boardwalk with our Aunt Shirley, and I do see them together. I was with my Aunt Shirley when she passed, and as she was passing, I played her brother's music for her, Island in the Sun and Jamaica Farewell, and I ended it When the Saints Go Marching In. And I think she appreciated it. But as the oldest, I learned and had the opportunity to go to Kenya's independence, to Guinea after it had just been made into an independent country, where my father was the guest artistic director to develop the very first African dance company to come to the United States. The Djoloba Ballet Company, and it's still in existence. But with this, each one of my siblings has a very special part of my father to themselves, and what they carry forward, and what is their personal legacy that they choose to share with the public. And for me, it was educating Americans that Africa is not a country. So with my daughter, Rachel Blue, in 1997, we started a foundation that makes it possible for medical students, law students, social work, and sociology students to learn about various activities on the continent, specifically in Southern and Eastern and Central Africa. We still are doing that, from Habitat for Humanity housing to taking medical students over to learn how medicine is done in other countries. I'm very proud of the opportunities my father made for me and for my family. And I applaud my siblings for their individual and very specific wants and desires to carry forward our father's intentions for the world. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sherry Belafonte, second born. I'm the comedian in the family. And I'm wearing this mask because I'm going to Finland in a couple of days, so don't even start barking at me about, why is she wearing a mask anyway? I had a very different relationship with my father, as did all of our siblings. My parents actually separated when my mother was pregnant with me. And I kind of grew up listening to my mom and my grandmother, because my grandmother came, our Nana was her name, came and Nana became the mom, and Mom was kind of the dad. And I would hear more often from Nana and Marguerite saying, well, Harry's coming to pick up the kids tomorrow. Well, Harry's not going to be able, well, Harry wants to take the kids to France for spring break. So oftentimes I know people have heard me say, well, Harry did this and Harry did that, and I always refer to Harry, or 90% of the time I refer to my father as Harry. And I had very different relationships and moments with him that what I've told people, it's like a Dickens story. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. But I'll give you just a couple of snippets. One was the first time I really remember seeing Dad on television. Dad had just gotten us one of those big RCA TVs, and I was 5, maybe 6. And this movie, Odds Against Tomorrow, was on. And I'm watching it, oh my God, there's Dad. And I'm literally on the TV like this, watching the whole thing, just riveted, watching everything's happening. You know, I'm just, there he goes, you know, there I know he's hiding over here. And at the very end of the movie, I don't know if you know, but he blows up. And all I know is I'm standing there like this. And my grandmother runs in and she goes, what's going on? What's going on? Dad, he's dead! Harry's dead! And I was unconsolable. And they actually had to call him to tell him that I'm a wreck and to take over, you know, come, you gotta talk to her, you gotta, Sherry, I'm okay. No, you're not, you're dead, I saw it. Obviously to say he was not dead. And from that moment on, there was always that trying to figure out who this guy was. And as I grew older, I would get a little competitive or a little combative. Sometimes he would do things and I'd go, that's never gonna happen. Oh my God, what a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? One of the ones that I'll just tell you, because I'm gonna give it up soon, but I was with him the moment he decided, well, it's not the moment he decided, it's the first time he met Ken Cragen to discuss this little music project that he wanted to do. He said, come pick me up. I'm going out to dinner with Ken Cragen. Okay, great, cool. I know Ken Cragen is Lionel Richie's manager. Maybe, I can talk to him about some stuff. We sit at this tiny little restaurant on Melrose Place. I'm sitting here, Ken is here, Harry's here. Harry grabs a napkin, the cocktail napkin, hands it to me and hands a pen and goes, "Write this down." I'm going, "What, now I'm his secretary? All right, fine." He looks at Ken and he goes, "Madonna." Madonna? Barbara Streisand. Michael Jackson. I'm thinking, what? And Ken goes, "Well, I think, the way to get to Michael is to I can get a hold of Diana, and I realize he's putting together this little song thing with all these celebrities, because he's just naming celebrities." And I'm sitting there going, "It's never gonna happen." After dinner, Ken says, "Let's go over to Lionel's house." We go over to Lionel's house, and it's just really the four of us, and Lionel's playing this song on the piano, and it's okay, but it's a rough new song. It's not the one you're thinking, though. And I'm really thinking, oh my God, this is gonna be the biggest disaster you ever saw in your life. And then Lionel says, "You know what? Let's get Q on the phone." And I think you all know what happened after that. And a lot of people just didn't know that We Are the World was Harry's idea, that Harry created it. And about 10 years later, I decided I was going to come up with We Are the Children, have the second generation kids in the entertainment industry dance with the Tiny Toons. And I worked my ass off for 2 years to get that to go. And really, we were this close, and then Michael Jackson got into a little little thing with some kids, and they pulled the plug on it. And I went, oh God, this is my comeuppance for saying this, that We Are the World was never gonna work, so. But these are the kinds of things, Harry also, while we didn't always get along, we did, usually humor was the one thing that kept us connected. And in the very end, the last few years that we were together, probably about 3 years now, a lot of my compatriots are here from Screen Actors Guild, AFTRA. I got roped into being on the board, and then on the local board, national board, then in the negotiations committee, which we just went through. I don't know how many of you know, but we just went through one hell of a negotiation. And I would always report back to him what was going on and he was so excited because now I was a union girl. And the 1199 people, you know who we are, or AFL-CIO. That's the thing. There's so many facets to Harry that a lot of people know the activism, a lot of people know the music, a lot of people just didn't know just what a union guy he was too. And I'm glad that I kind of picked up that mantle. Now the foundation that I'm gonna start, hopefully in the next few months, my siblings are really gonna save the world here. I'm into saving dogs and to making movies. So while I applaud them, we are just all kind of what you see Harry helped seed in this world. And you people are also the audience and the people that loved him and praised him, and thank you because you put me through college.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to, first of all, thank you all here in attendance this evening for taking the time and making the effort to pay tribute to our father, who I may refer to as well as Harry from time to time. I've been told that I apparently inherited from my father a tendency to often over-articulate and be somewhat long-winded. So, with that in mind, I will stick to my written word so we can move forward with the remainder of this program in a timely fashion. Professionally, I worked with Harry for nearly 5 decades. With him, beside him. And in that span of time, I was gifted the opportunity to have seen places been a part of things that were extraordinary. Harry took his platform and created an effective tool through which to connect art and activism, to advocate for social change, sharing his stage and platform with emerging artists, offering them global exposure. Fundamentally, creating access. So beyond acknowledging Harry's many artistic and public service accomplishments, we look to use our best efforts and all resources available to create access and help level a hugely imbalanced playing field, which is in too many instances enormously stacked against people of color. And our motivation to do that work and help create that access is in no small part driven by the monumental commitment of countless women and men over centuries past to the present, not unlike my father, who advocated tirelessly for the kind of changes that we all aspire to see happen. So his passing, and since his passing, there's been a lot to consider in terms of what is possible in furtherance of Harry's legacy, in ways that are meaningful, empathetic by nature, impactful, and hopefully relevant to next generations. To take the best of the man and put it into the work. So as to not confuse estate and legacy, legacy lives in who we are, not what we think we perhaps control. Harry left no singular baton to be passed, but rather a collection of batons that were in keeping with Harry's divine dissatisfaction with just about everything on earth, which in turn fueled his resolve to advocate for changes in those areas he was passionate about. Anyone who knew or worked with him should know exactly what I mean. My father left no navigable path forward out of this mess we perpetually find ourselves in the world. No playbook, no de facto person, likeness, or voice has been charged to exclusively represent his legacy moving forward. I look at you out here, present here, and I see a space filled with agents of change. His legacy lives in how we carry forward each in our own way those things we have gleaned from the best of a difficult man. I loved my father. I know where he amazed me, and I know where he deeply disappointed me. Where he disappointed me, I healed through my relationship with my own children, my wife, and those that share our life. Who I am as a man, a father, a husband, and a citizen of the world was in no small way forged by my relationship to and with Harry. The things that I was exposed to, the things I learned to do, the things I learned not to do, and the many things I had to figure out for myself. Harry's appetite for large-scale vision is legendary. To sit in a pitch meeting with Harry, certainly from my perspective, given the role that I played, was always interesting. He would own the room, everyone hanging on every word. And we're going to part the Hudson River right about Fort Lee. Then march everybody to the other side, where we will then do the impossible. Talk to David, he'll make sure it happens. And in the aftermath of the glorious pitch and all the praise, we would board the elevator to leave the meeting, and as the doors to the elevator closed, Harry would turn to me and often say, "See you on the cross." But I cannot stand here this evening and speak of my father without offering an enormous shout out to Gina's and my mother, a matriarch to Adrian and Sherry, and Harry's second wife, Julie. Who unfortunately could not be with us here this evening, but towed the line with Harry for almost 50 years. She marched, she endured racial hatred and abuse through the years when a high-profile relationship between a black man and a white woman was seriously risky business. Then to bear children in that climate was a double down on their commitment to the need for diversity in the world. Just this week, we sadly had to transfer our mom to hospice. It's comforting for us to know that she's getting ready to join Harry after a lifetime together and only months after his passing. When I was born, my mother received a letter from a complete stranger, dated September 26, 1957, postmarked from somewhere in New Jersey. It read, and I quote, "Mrs. Belafonte, congratulations on your nigger baby. You must be pretty low when you couldn't find a white man. You're a real disgrace to white womanhood. You will wake up when the little nigger grows up. Signed, a white woman, a white mother." And today, my wife and children are maligned on white supremacist websites, trolled on social media, and harassed by ignorant people who seem to live and breathe hatred. So I stand here on behalf of Milena and Serafina and Amadeus and myself as we put our best foot forward to represent Harry's legacy through our deeply personal and unique experience of him in ways that are truthful, diverse in mission, meaningful, and created with future generations in mind. To do our best to show a world as we believe it can and should be, because there is no competition when it comes to trying to do good in a world where problems so far outweigh solutions. It has been said that the world would be a far more beautiful place if the eyes could only see the soul and not the body. It is perhaps a time for a fresh assessment. It is time, perhaps, for a fresh assessment of how we look at one another and look at our combined strengths that should arise from our differences rather than normalized dysfunctional arguments and grievances. Optimism has to prevail. How we treat one another should be setting the bar for what we expect in return. So I leave you with my hope that each and every one of you find a way to leave this world on its way to becoming a better place than while you were in it, as our Father did. I personally thank you all for taking the time this evening to pay tribute to Harry. And moving forward, we hope his memory helps fuel your resolve to always fight forward. Thank you.
Gina Belafonte. And the youngest daughter of Harry and Julie. Today we gather in community not to mourn our father's passing, but to celebrate a life that harmonizes undying melodies of hope, activism, and inspiration. I am humbled and grateful and proud to speak to the profound importance of our father's legacy. Many of his friends and comrades, including Dr. King, viewed our father as an indispensable partner, recognizing the importance of collaboration and unity in effecting lasting change. His life and work have left an indelible mark on the world through his exceptional artistry, storytelling, and unwavering commitment to social justice. Much of this has been spoken to tonight. So, like my daughter Maria, I will read a letter from me to my dad. Dear Dad, Mocha Poopa Hesh, HNIC. On my word of honor, I'm glad I chose you as a father. I have learned much by your example. First, let me thank you for bringing Tanta Shirley to live with us. She taught me that unconditional love is real. You taught me that a world that still grapples with deep-rooted inequities and inequalities, through art, there is power to transcend boundaries and ignite social change. That art and activism are intrinsically linked, and how you fearlessly used your influence to shed light on issues of racial discrimination, poverty, and human rights violations. This fueled the fire of resistance and inspired me to fight for a better tomorrow. Your ongoing legacy of progress is built upon the work of those who came before you, like Paul Robeson, Eleanor Roosevelt, motivating and inspiring others to strive for greatness. The time you took me to the 70th birthday of Nelson Mandela at Wembley Stadium, or to hold hands at Hands Across America, or to New York City rallies or closed-door strategy sessions where I would sit quietly and soak in all the brilliance of the discussion. How do I put into words the profound impact it all has? When we took you down to Ferguson after Mike Brown was murdered, I watched carefully how you navigated in that community, how consistent your strategy was to lean into listening. And when you said yes to me making a film on your life, what a gift. You lived with purpose, and you've made a lasting impact on the world, being a guiding light for future generations. You left a lasting impression on me as well, like the island of Jamaica, Harlem, mangoes, avocados, tuna melts, milkshakes, freshly squeezed orange juice, sucking the marrow out of the chicken bones, and literally licking your plate. There are so many memories. As a little girl, stuffing envelopes and licking stamps for fundraisers, or dancing in the wings at your concerts, raptured by your command of the stage and seeing your audiences mesmerized by your beauty, talent, your humor, and swagger. Thank you for taking us all over the world to watch and learn, to appreciate the diversity that exists, and to always treat people with dignity and honor. When you first asked me to work with you over 30 years ago, I accepted, and I was grateful for the opportunity, and I finally got to call you Harry, which you responded to far quicker than Dad. Thank you, Shari. Great intimacy was created between us. I was often put in the position as gatekeeper and developed an intense protective relationship to you and your time. We share you with the world, it's true. But in many moments, you and I had the good fortune to be with each other one-on-one. Our conversations about art, activism, relationships, and forging a better world are ever present in my heart. Our intense moments of laughter, sharing downtime, just chillin', watching sports or a movie, or just lighting up a joint and riffing on the possibilities of life. I will miss those moments. On a deeply personal note, I embrace how you dedicated much of your life investigating a deeper understanding of yourself. And while reflecting on our shared journey, I not only acknowledge the deep love we shared, but also the moments when your actions or mine, unintentionally or on purpose, caused discomfort. In those instances, it seemed like a reflection of an inner struggle. Your pursuit of inquiry and understanding showcased a deep desire for personal growth, and despite these challenges, my love for you remains unwavering. I embrace the imperfections, understanding that growth and self-discovery are a continuous process, for we humans are, in fact, a work in progress. Your journey in psychotherapy and your efforts to right the wrongs are inspiring to those around you to embark on their own paths of healing. And though we had a rocky start, I want to thank you for bringing Pam into your life. I think she helped you to realize that love is real and can be trusted, and helped to heal many of the broken parts within you with her devotion and loyalty. You pass to me knowledge, strategy, wisdom, and experiences that have and will continue to inform my work. I will forever be reminded that we as a collective have the power to shape the world we live in, and we can, together, forge a more just and harmonious society. I am honored to carry forward your radical torch, an enduring example to all who strive to create a more equitable world and build upon the remarkable legacy you have left us all. Dad, your voice, like a timeless ballad, stirs hearts and ignites the flames of change. You danced to the rhythm of justice, harmonizing melodies of equality that echo through generations. Your legacy isn't confined to words spoken tonight or in this moment, but rather the symphony of courage you conducted in the face of adversity. You are not a figure of the past, but a timeless melody that continues to inspire us to create a world that sings with compassion, justice, radical thought, and harmony. Thank you, Dad. I love you.
As the oldest, I'm going to take a second go at it because I want to thank our sister Gina, who pulled this event together. Truly, if it had been left to me and Sherry, we would have taken his ashes to Jamaica and had a really nice vacation. But I also want to add to what Gina said. Pam was Dad's solace. When I first met her, which was years after she'd been on the scene, he told me how special and important she was to his life. And he did hand her the keys to be the gatekeeper. And she did it beautifully. And maybe for some, they felt she did it a little too well. But she was steadfast and loving in protecting him. And her family supports her and loves her and made it possible. Our father left this world quietly, peacefully, and with a smile on his face, with Pam holding his hand. And so I say thank you, Pam, and thank you to your family. Just very quickly, our mother, the first mother, was the romantic love. She was the unobtainable because she was a campus queen at Hampton University, and he was a lowly sailor, and he was determined to get her attention. And so with that love, the first love, created me and Sherry. His second love, Julie, who is very important to me and Sherry also. She was his political love. She supported him in marches and political beliefs and things that were difficult for our mother to do as an upwardly mobile African American during the J. Edgar Hoover reign. But Julie gave him something that he really needed and really wanted. And our hearts go out to her because she is in hospice now. But Julie and my mother together worked overtime for the four of us to consider each other brother and sister, as opposed to half brother, half sister. And then, as I've already said, Pam was his love at the end, caring for him and caring for each other. And a love there that is very different from the other two. But in my heart of hearts, I believed Dad, in his own right, his own needs, loved all three of those women in his life. And so I say thank you to my mother, to Julie, and to Pam. And again, thank you all for being here. You all had your own relationship with him.
I've got first dibs on the men's room.
Mr. Belafonte certainly knew the power of art and music to drive change, to inspire the hearts of people around the world, and to speak truth to power. This is a dangerous time.
Afraid to hold on, afraid to let go, afraid to find out, but afraid not to know, afraid of what's broken, but still doesn't show. These are dangerous times to love. Afraid of the sky, afraid of the light, afraid of the wind that will carry the night, afraid of bad news from the satellite. These are dangerous times to love. We do not stand up together. We can find no solid ground. All of our songs are forever, not having empty sound. Afraid to hope, afraid to bleed, afraid of too much, but afraid of need, afraid of the poisons we might see. These are dangerous times to love. Stand up together. We can find no solid ground. All of our songs are forever, not having empty sound. Afraid to be foolish, afraid to be old, afraid of the stories that are recklessly told, afraid we must sell what's already been sold. These are dangerous times to love. Dangerous times to love.
But if you take black people and black cause and black issue, all we want to really do in our most fundamental of expression is to enjoy the universe. Yet we have the necessity to deal with the oppression, and the oppression keeps getting in the way of love. And love must be evoked in order to redirect the oppression to oblivion.